However, one of the things that they do is this personal learning checklist, which is amazingly powerful. If you could imagine a student's bit of work here, and I want to do a what went well and an even better if, or I want to give them some feedback. There's a limit to how much I can write before I've used up 24 hours of marking.
Yeah, sorry.
It's my fault.
Lots,
okay. So I need something that's going to speed up my marking. I don't have to do much, but gives the kid maximum information. So what I used to do is, as I was marking the kid's book, there'd be a mistake there, and I'd number that number 1, and on a separate piece of paper I'd write, this is a comma splice. Then I'd find another mistake, number 2, don't start your sentence with a quotation, integrate it into the sentence. Then I'd find another mistake, number 3, paragraph for changes of time, topic and talk. You haven't paragraphed, and so on. When I got to my next book, I'd open that up. All right, they've made the same mistake, that's number 1, I'll put number 1 there. They've made the same mistake, that's number 3, I'll put number 3 there. And at the end, I'll have a sheet with maybe 20 things on, but just numbers in the kid's book. And they'll see what it is they have to improve on. So that was, for me, the mutt's nuts of marking, because it didn't take me any longer to mark, but I was able to focus on 20 different things that was all personal to my students. So that was the best differentiation in the universe. And there were no comments. I might have a comment at the end, but they had potentially 20 different things to improve on. Actually, you would have 1, 2, 7, you would have 8, 1 and 9, and so on. Yeah? It didn't take me any longer to mark. In fact, it took me less time to mark, because I only wrote the stuff down on a piece of paper once, not in everyone's book. And so I thought that was the gold standard of marking. And then we had an interview for deputy head, and one of the teachers was obsessed with Pixl, and she turned up with a personal learning checklist, and she taught a fairly average lesson, but she had a personal learning checklist with about 12 different things on to give to these kids in a half-hour lesson, and they just used it to rate themselves at the beginning of the lesson and rate themselves at the end. And I thought, that's just gimmicky rubbish. So at the end of the lesson, I went up to one of the kids and I said, what do you think of that? And she said, that was really useful, because at the beginning of the lesson I worked out what I didn't know. And so I had a focus during the lesson. And I said, that's good. Did you learn anything new in the lesson? Yeah, I learned that, that and that. And the teacher had mapped out what the kid could learn. Remember, I started my session by saying, you need to find a way for the kids to learn more than you can teach. So in the lesson, she taught badly. It was an average lesson. I was sitting with an ex-headmaster who gave it a fail. But remember, I said lesson observations are often wrong. Yeah. However, the kids had learnt loads because of this. She had gone through what the success criteria was, and it was massive. It was all the things that they could learn and could know. And the kid had worked out for themselves what their journey was going to be. That was so powerful. So I thought I had the gold standard of marking, and I went away and I said, okay, I'm teaching inspector calls, we're doing an exam question, and I broke it down into different areas of skills. So, what did they need to do approaching the question before they even got to knowing the play? Okay, underline the key words so that you can use them in the answer. Did you use them in your answer? Did you spend 1 to 3 minutes planning what's right? Did you make sure that you thought about Priestley's purpose rather than just writing about the characters? If I didn't plan my answer, was it the right decision now that I've marked my work? Then I'll be forensic. Reading from our answer, were you able to find the quotations that were relevant? Did you manage to use 8 or more? Did you manage to use short ones so that you could integrate them? And so I break everything down into loads of skills, more than I could possibly teach in a lesson, because they're all going to enter this at different points. Then I get to, okay, now the writing the answer. Did you write paragraphs? That's not in the mark scheme. But if my kids can't write in paragraphs, the examiner's going to say, low grade, straight off, aren't they? It's not in the mark scheme, but the examiner's just going to go, this isn't very good. So I put that in. Kids write waffly introductions that get no marks. Okay, I want 2 sentences, maximum. My first 2 sentences use the keywords from the question, so I'm actually answering the flipping question. My paragraphs linked, I do a lot of work on, if I chopped up your essay and just chucked the paragraphs about, would they have to go back in that order? If they could go back in a different order, your essay's rubbish, because there isn't an argument that links. It can't be, because you've moved that paragraph around, it still makes sense. Did you write a conclusion? If you didn't, you're not going to get the top marks. Did you write a conclusion? I always ask them to have finish with a quotation if they can. It's just a shorthand for me of making them make a conclusion. Did you keep going for at least 45 minutes? We had mock exams, and as teachers we invigilate mock exams, but not the real exams. And I was sitting in a maths exam, which was an hour and a half long, doing some work on my iPad. And after half an hour, I was aware that some kids had stopped working. This is impossible. You know, they're not super brainbox kids. So after about 45 minutes, I just picked up my iPad, put it on record, and just went around like this, filmed all the kids. And at the end of it, like, were you filming us, sir? I said, yeah, I was. I want your teacher to know that you'd stopped working with half an hour to go. Well, why do you want them to know that? I said, well, it doesn't matter how good your teacher is, if you're going to sit at the end of the exam for 25 minutes, half an hour, not do anything. And I just realised that we put all this pressure on ourselves to be brilliant teachers, but we're forgetting the most basic thing. We've got to train our kids to just be good learners. Because a good learner will keep going to the end of the question. So my teaching now is all to do with that. Yeah, we're doing an exam question, and I will just stand there. Alice, you stop writing. I'm thinking, sir. How do we think in my lesson? By writing, sir. What do you do if you've written something that's no good? Cross it out. How does it help to write some rubbish? Because I'll think of something better, sir. Yeah, I just hammer it into them all the time. I'm not teaching them anything about English, but I'm teaching them how to keep going to the end of the exam. I'm just going to add 10% onto their marks, probably. Of course, I'm not there in the exam to make sure it happens, which is frustrating.